Welcome to the Content Operating System. My name is Justin Welsh, and I am going to be your instructor for the next 55 minutes. First of all, thank you so much for being a student. I'm really excited to share all of the information inside of this course. Ever since I showed up on the Ship 30 for 30 podcast and on YouTube with Dickie Bush and Nicholas Cole and showed people a little sneak preview of my content production system, I have fielded hundreds of questions from people asking, can they see the full system? How does it work? How do I create a lot of content in such a short period of time? And that's exactly what the content operating system is all about. So in less than an hour, you are going to learn how to rapidly produce content for both social media and for a newsletter. Really excited. My name is Justin Welsh, and I want to give you just a really brief background on myself. I'm a former executive operator at multiple startup companies, most notably the chief revenue officer at a business called Patient Pop in Los Angeles. I built that from its first dollar in revenue past 50 million in recurring revenue in just 4.5 short years. I left in August of 2019 after burning out really hard to pursue being what is now called a creator. In my beginning stages, I was just a consultant, and I started writing actively on social media. And over the last 2.5 years, I've grown to almost 200,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I just started writing on Twitter about 18 weeks ago and have grown to 60,000 followers, up from just about 7,000 or 8,000 when I started. My content has been seen 120 million times, and my creator businesses, which are now products and services aimed at creators, have generated roughly $2 million in about 2.5 years. I have very few expenses. I operate at about 98% margins, and I've never run a single paid advertisement. So before we dive in, that's my background. I have a note here. This course is intended to be a couple of things. It's intended to be affordable, so this isn't some $1,500 masterclass or things like that. It's intended to be short, so you're going to be able to complete it in less than an hour, and there is no fluff. I don't edit. There's no high production value. You're not going to see me in, a rented skyscraper or pretending that I own a yacht. I'm not that cool or interesting. This is just me inside of my home office in Nashville. So this is the production value you're going to get. I hope you like it. So why is this course so important? And the reason that having a content operating system is so critical is because every single creative profession that you know has systems that they use to make content that they know will resonate. So it doesn't matter if it's music artists, movie writers, authors, they all have formulas, templated scripts, templated storylines. But for some reason, as creators, we're held to this standard of, not using systems because it's inauthentic, which I think is silly. So I have created this course to make sure that, much like other creatives, like musicians, like movie writers, like authors, that we have systems to fall back on. And the reason that I do this is because of something that James Clear said, and I take this really to heart. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So I don't believe in willpower. I don't believe in a strong work ethic that never stops. Sure, I work hard, and sure, people have willpower. I'm sure you do as well. But systems are there when we aren't feeling creative, when we're stuck in a rut. And just like James says, you fall to the level of your systems. So let's have high quality systems. There is a problem though, and I want to just put this problem out there before the course starts. And that is, systems don't guarantee results. They make it more likely that you will see consistent and predictable results, but you still have to be a good writer. You have to be a good creative, a good content producer, and the systems are just one part of that. So in this course, I want to just show you how you can use these systems to support your growth. But like anything else, the more you work on writing, the more you practice your craft, the better off you're going to be. This isn't just a plug and play thing. The templates work. Practice your writing. I always get some questions before even my courses start, and so I want to just get ahead of those questions and answer them for you. Do I use systems and templates for everything that I produce? And the answer is absolutely not. I write plenty of unique, new content, fresh content, my own templates, my own writing. I write stories. For me, systems are when I need a hit, when I need a proven piece of content. Maybe I'm introducing a course. Maybe I'm introducing my newsletter. Also, there are times when I don't feel creative, when I can't think of something to write. That's where systems help me, and that's where systems will really help you. When you don't feel creative, when you want to stay consistent, think about having systems. But of course, you can go out and create your own stuff without templates, right? The next question I've gotten about my system is, do you have to use the same technology and follow my system exactly? And the answer is, of course not. My system is just an example. I'm sure that someone who buys this will be much more technologically savvy than I am and will find different or possibly better tools and technology to use in their systems. This is just an example of a system that you can use to produce predictable results. You want to use different technology? Absolutely go for it. Don't feel tied to the things that I share in this course. And then the last one, which came from a conversation I actually had with another creator, is, don't systems and templates seem inauthentic? And my answer is not at all. Much like we already talked about inside of this introduction, all creatives, writers, musicians, movie producers, actors, they all have different systems. So let's stop holding online content creators to a different standard, and let's all go out there and embrace systems so that we can be predictable, we can be consistent, and when we're in a rut, we have something to fall back on. So, as far as agenda and outcomes, there are 4 simple chapters inside of this course. Chapter 1 is just the creator funnel and content psychology. It's really about setting up systems for being a creator before you set up systems to actually create content. So you need to understand how people go from discovering you, to trusting you, to deepening a relationship with you, to eventually buying your products and services. We're going to cover that in the creator funnel. Inside of content psychology, we're going to talk about human emotion. And we're going to talk about how to elicit 4 different types of emotions from people that make your content more likely to resonate. And therefore, if you understand that, when you write content inside of the system, you'll know you're really aiming at emotions that will get engagement. In chapter 2, we're going to break down the content operating system architecture. So from a high level, how does it work? Why does it work the way that it does? And what are the tools and technology that are a part of the operating system for me? In chapter 3, we're going to chop it up. We're going to take each of the 3 parts of the operating system, we're going to break them down, and I'm actually going to do those parts of the system in real time so that you can see what the system looks like from my perspective. And then chapter 4 is all about bonus materials. And in bonus materials, I offer a free copy of my content operating system that you build out in a piece of software called Notion. I also offer discounted products that you'll see inside of the operating system that I use. I don't represent any product that I don't use, and a few other pieces of material. And just maybe a last note before we dive in. This course is only 55 minutes long. I highly recommend that you just schedule 2 30-minute blocks, or maybe 2 45-minute blocks if you like to take notes. Just buying this course won't make you a great creator. It won't help you set up systems. You have to actually watch it. So I'd highly recommend setting that time aside right now in your calendar. Think about the courses you've purchased and never completed. Don't make this one of them. There are 2 intended outcomes for this course. The first intended outcome is I want you to get discovered by creating much, much higher quality content in significantly less time. And the second outcome that I want you to have is how to build trust by creating an incredibly helpful newsletter fast. You can do a lot of the stuff that I'm going to show you for free. There are tools you can buy that make this significantly faster and easier. I will present those. You can choose to buy them or not. Your choice, right? Cool. So that is the introduction to the course. I cannot wait to get into it. The first chapter is that creator funnel and the content psychology that drives emotions, helps your content resonate, and helps you get engagement. So I'll see you inside chapter 1. All right. Welcome to chapter 1 of the content operating system. And chapter 1 is all about the creator funnel and content psychology. And I know you're probably really excited to dive into the operating system, to create your own, to build out your templates. I highly recommend watching this short chapter 1. This will show you the creator funnel, which is essentially how we move people from being followers to being customers. And we'll also talk about human emotions and how that plays into the psychology behind your content. My fear is that you move on to chapter 2, you start building out your system, you start building out your templates, and all you're doing is systematizing and creating templates around mediocre content. Don't do that. Watch this short chapter 1. Let's dive in. So we'll start with the creator funnel. And the creator funnel is really thinking about being a creator, a content creator, as a long game play. So understanding the long game of moving someone from follower to customer. And you really do it through 4 steps. If you've subscribed to my newsletter, you've seen this already. This will be the only thing you've read in my newsletter, but I think it's really important to cover. So there are 4 steps. Getting discovered, which means being found on social media platforms. Building trust, which is really about showing your deep expertise in one particular topic. Deepening relationships, which is all about that community-led growth that you're reading about right now and why that's so critical and important. And then monetization. And if you can move people through discovery, trust, relationships, monetization becomes so much easier. We're going to talk about the top 2 pieces of the funnel in this course. We're not going to talk about community. We're not going to talk about monetization. We're going to start by talking about getting discovered. And getting discovered is pretty basic. It means going out and creating valuable content where people are already consuming. This is part of modern marketing. This is part of being a modern creator. And you know the places where people are already consuming. There are places like Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, indie hackers. These are what I call creator marketplaces, where there are 2 sides. There's the creators and there's the consumers. And what I want this course to do is teach you how to make sure that you are on the creator side, getting discovered by the consumers, but doing that with really, really great content. Because if you can't get discovered, you can't do the rest of the funnel. The second part of the funnel that we'll talk about inside of this course is building trust. And building trust is so critical in the monetization efforts. Because if you can't build trust, then people don't actually have the likelihood that they will consume or buy products from you. And when I say trust, I don't mean, they'll let you watch their kids or their dogs or be in their house. I mean, they deeply trust that you are an expert in your field. You go from being a familiar face and familiar name to being, this is someone that I trust. And I found the easiest way to deepen trust on social media is to use longer form content to show your expertise. Short form, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, things like that, really get discovered. You want to deepen that trust. It's all about longer form content. Podcast is an example of deepening trust. My go-to for deepening trust, a newsletter, how-to guides, step-by-step guides, things like that. It is super critical to eventually monetizing. We're going to cover both getting discovered, and we're also going to cover building trust inside of the content operating system. In order to do both of those things really effectively, you need to understand how human emotions play into the reception of your content. And I truly believe that if you want your content to be well received, there's only 4 sort of human emotions that you can play on in social media to do that. One is you can teach, you can educate. This person teaches or educates me. The second one is you can be entertaining. The third one is you can challenge people or make them think. And the fourth one is you can understand or empathize with people. These are the 4 content styles or outcomes for emotion that work online. Teach or educate, entertain, make me think or challenge me, understand or empathize. Let's take a look at some examples. So we'll start with entertainment. I am not entertaining online. It's just not how I write, so I don't do it very often. But somebody who is J.K. Molina. I don't love everything he writes. I don't agree with everything he writes, but I can't argue that he isn't entertaining. You can see this picture of Mark Zuckerberg in flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt. You can read the caption. You can see why this resonated with 3,600 people. got retweeted over 340 times. JK is an entertainer. That helps get his name and face out in front of more people online. But teaching is where it's at for me. I like to teach and educate. That is something that I do often on both Twitter and LinkedIn. And another great teacher is Dickie Bush. So Dickie wrote a thread here, how to generate 100 ideas to write about in 30 minutes, even if you have nothing to say. What aspiring writer who's struggling to think of ideas wouldn't read this? And since Dickie knows his audience, aspiring writers who are probably struggling to think of lots of ideas, this tweet resonated. Over 5,000 likes and 1,000 retweets. Dickie is an educator. Dickie is a teacher. You can also show your audience that you empathize or understand them. That really deepens the emotional connection. So this is part of, even some pre-trust building. This helps build trust because it shows empathy. It shows connection. Amanda Getz is really good at this. If you don't know Amanda, she's the founder of House of Wise. That is a luxury CBD brand and community for women. It is very pro-women. It is very pro-sex. It is very anti-stress. It is very forward-thinking. And you can see that Amanda understands and empathizes with her audience. It's clear in this tweet, right? Things I want for Mother's Day: maternity leave, pelvic floor therapy, lactation consultants, changing tables. These are things that her audience all wants as well. She understands, she empathizes, and it pays off. 3,000 likes, over 700 retweets. Amanda is an expert at empathy with her audience. And the last one is this person makes me think. So you challenge their thoughts. You challenge the way they currently think. You challenge maybe the established norm, right? Challenging the establishment or the norm is a really good way to resonate with your audience. And here's an example of me doing that, right? Most creators will tell you it's all about creativity. It's all about cranking out new content. I took a little bit of a different approach here. And I said, if you're publishing content daily, remember, people won't see it, won't remember it. Certain people will never see it. Repurpose often. Nobody remembers your content like you remember your content. That's a little bit different than maybe some other folks say. And so since I'm challenging the notion that you shouldn't be repurposing, it resonated with my audience. I challenged them, but also at the same time gave them permission to repurpose. Almost 900 likes, over 90 retweets. A great example of challenging preconceived notions. So that is a short chapter 1, just about 8 minutes long. We covered the creator funnel. So we're going to talk about getting discovered on social media platforms. We're going to talk about building trust using a high quality newsletter. We're also going to dive into how to create both of those things rapidly and with high quality. We're not going to talk about community and monetization, but I did shine a light on the 4 different styles or outcomes that are tied to 4 emotions that really create that great content to get discovered and build trust. And that is to teach or educate, to entertain, to challenge the preconceived notion or thinking, and to empathize or understand your audience. And so now that we've covered all 4 of those, let's dive into Chapter 2, the Content OS architecture. See you inside. All right, welcome to Chapter 2 of the Content Operating System. And this is all about the architecture behind my specific operating system. I'm going to talk about the overarching strategy, and I'm also going to dive into some of the tools and technology that I use to make this really fast, efficient, and automated. So let's dive in. To start, this chapter is going to break down the 4 different pieces of the operating system, and I'm going to do it with no breaks. But don't worry, in Chapter 3, we're going to take each piece, break them down one by one, and walk through them together. So if you want, grab a pencil, pen, piece of paper, take some notes, but we are going to break these down more in depth in Chapter 3. So there are 4 pieces of my operating system. The first one is curate. So going out and finding really great styles, structures, and formats that we can use for our ideas. We want to take our ideas, put them in really proven formats, styles, and structures, use that as a vessel to deliver our ideas to as many people as possible, right? We're going to templatize, which is taking those great styles, structures, and formats, turning them into templates that we can reuse over and over again. We want to talk about creating, which is like, how do we get ideas really fast to fill those templates out? because even blank templates are tough to fill out. So really creating ideas quickly and then distributing, but distributing automatically, and also plugging in some really unique growth tools to make sure that our tweets and LinkedIn posts reach as many people as possible. So let's start with curation. Curate is the first step. And I use 2 free tools to do this really effectively. I use Twemex and also Save to Notion, which is sometimes called Notion Saver. And they are both Google Chrome plugins, and they are both free. Free Google Chrome plugins, Twemex, Save to Notion. Let's start with Twemex. And Twemex is really about finding and capturing people's best tweets. And this is one of my favorite plugins because you can go to anyone's profile, like mine here, and Twemex on the right-hand side will show you their top 15 to 20 tweets of all time. So you just load a profile up and it automatically displays those tweets. Here's mine, here's Nicholas Cole's, here's Dan Coe's, here's Chase Diamond's. This is such an easy way to go out, look at your favorite creators, and find the templates that have already worked for them so that you can use them for your topic, for your knowledge, for things that you want to say. For example, I was scrolling Twitter the other day and I came across this tweet from a guy named Mark Tenenholtz, and it said, how to spend time building most ML models, old way, ... new way, ... with a little takeaway at the bottom, spend your time wisely. And when I saw this, it didn't super resonate with me because I actually don't know what ML models are, but I loved the style, white space, good lists. I just thought it was really interesting. And I thought this would be a great format for me to use to talk to my audience about topics that are important to them and the things that I write about. So in order to do that, I want to suck this tweet into my Notion, which we'll talk about here momentarily, so that I could turn it into a template I can use and reuse. And Save to Notion is really easy. Again, free Google Chrome plugin. You just install it on your Chrome. And you can take a tweet like this one of Mark's, and you can instantly bring it into your Notion. So by clicking the plugin, it surfaced the tweet, it surfaced the tweet URL, but you'll also notice there's an empty category there. That's a custom field that I built. And so inside of that category, I can label it, like one of our 4 outcomes: educate, entertain, empathize, challenge, that we talked about in chapter 1. So here I've labeled this educate. This is an educational tweet. And by clicking that button, what it does, it brings the tweet, it brings the tweet URL, it brings the category into a section of my Notion, which again, we're going to talk more about, called To Templatize, which means that I have not yet turned this tweet into a template. So that's the next step, is taking this really great style, structure, or format and turning it into a template that we can reuse over and over and over again. So we do that inside of Notion. So if you're not familiar with Notion, I believe it's notion.so. It is the best hub for creating an operating system. It's better than Google Drive, it's better than other pieces of software, and it's completely free. So go to Notion, open it up, and at the end of this course, you're going to actually be able to copy my operating system and bring it right into your Notion, the full thing. So just go get Notion for free and you can use mine and you don't have to build your own operating system. So let's go back to Mark's post here. So I saw Mark's post. I popped it in using Save to Notion. I sucked the tweet, the category, and the URL, and I brought it into my To Templatize section. And then on the left-hand column, you'll see that I have different sections of templates: education, engagement, observation, drawing and photos, Twitter threads. So I simply moved this template into the education section because it's an educational tweet. And you can see it's right there on top. How to do X, old way versus new way. And I've turned Mark's tweet into a template. How to do thing, old way, way 1, 2, 3, 4, new way, way 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a takeaway at the bottom. So I've now templatized this tweet and stored it in the education templates because that's what it's best used for. Now that we've stored it, it's time to create an actual tweet. And looking at an empty template, you might think that's really easy to just fill it in, but what do you tweet about? What topic? What do you say? It's actually more difficult than you might think. So I have something called the content matrix, which allows me to just rapidly walk through different topics and ideas and actually create something meaningful using this template. So my content matrix is just a simple list of topics that I write about. So since I write a lot about online business, you'll see things in here that are relevant to that. Writing, systems, solopreneurship, networking, self-promotion, sales, they all are things that are important to building online businesses. So I scrolled through and I thought to myself, what has an old way and a new way? And I saw the word solopreneurship. If you're not familiar with solopreneurship, it's the same as entrepreneurship. It's just building one-person businesses. So I saw that and I thought, there's an old way to build a one-person business and there's a new way to build a one-person business. So let's fill out our template with solopreneurship. So I took this template and turned it into this. How to do thing became how to build a one-person business. The old ways, Facebook ads, fancy website, webinar funnel, email campaigns. You can read the new way. And then my takeaway was trust over gimmicks. So I quickly produced this piece of content in less than 45 seconds after I looked at my content matrix. Once you produce it, it's time to schedule it and distribute it. But you don't want to just push it out into the ether without really good tactics for making sure that a lot of people see it. So there are two different ways to make sure that you publish effectively. One is free. It's to publish natively. It's to copy and paste it out of Notion, pop it into Twitter or LinkedIn. To me, there's just not enough built-in growth tools natively. It's too difficult to manage. So I use HypeFury, which is a tool I'm absolutely obsessed with. It's expensive, $49 a month, but the growth tools that are built in inside of it are absolutely worth it. Insane value. So HypeFury is all about automated tweets, automated threads, automating LinkedIn posts, all with these built-in boosts or growth tools. So I'll walk you through them. So to begin, I had to figure out when to post this. And to do that, I have a posting calendar, a content calendar that I built inside of Notion. And you can see each morning, with the exception of Saturday on Twitter, I educate. You can see some other topics there, observations, motivation, make me think, newsletter stuff. But I had a spot that was already filled on Monday, and I had a Tuesday open in my calendar. So I decided to schedule that Tuesday morning on Twitter. So when I wrote it and scheduled it, I wanted to make sure that this great tweet got boosted. So using HypeFury, I selected automatically retweet. And what retweeting your own tweet does is it juices it again. So your tweet grows and grows and grows and starts to fall off, and then you juice it with a retweet. I set it up so that if this tweet gets 75 likes, it will automatically be retweeted 9 hours later. I also set up something called add an auto plug. And an auto plug is an opportunity to plug something underneath the tweet if it reaches an even larger milestone. So all my auto plugs are set for 1,500 likes because I don't want to plug something on every tweet, and not all my tweets get 1,500 likes. So you can plug things like your newsletter, your products, whatever it is that you want to plug. I always plug my newsletter. So I wrote out this pre-written plug that says you can join my newsletter and here's how you join it. And I said, let's add this if it reaches 1,500 likes. I also used HypeFury to post it to LinkedIn. So HypeFury's tools, pretty insane. Auto retweet, auto plug of anything you want, automatically post it through to LinkedIn as well. And the great news on the back end is that 24 hours after this is retweeted, HypeFury will automatically unretweet it to keep your feed really nice and clean. So I posted this and it got over 1,700 likes. It got over 200 retweets. And so this was automatically retweeted and it automatically auto-plugged my newsletter. So it took about 23 hours, as you can see there, to reach 1,500 likes. But once it did, it automatically added this tweet. And this tweet on my newsletter got retweeted. It got 27 likes. It got a comment. And the most important thing is it drove a bunch of email subscribers. So that day I got 222 email subscribers. And the following day I got another 135. So 357 new email subscribers. I ended up getting 800 new Twitter followers. It automatically retweeted. It did well on LinkedIn, and then it unretweeted, kept my feed really, really clean. So you can see the power behind a really good publishing tool like Hypefury that has built-in growth tools. So that's for going out and getting discovered. That's for creating that high quality content on Twitter, on LinkedIn. But we also talked about the creator funnel in chapter 1, and the step below getting discovered was building trust. I use a different piece of software for building trust. I create these killer newsletters, if I may say so myself, really, really fast using a piece of software called TypeShare. And I've actually created a separate module where I'm going to walk you through how I use TypeShare to create my Saturday newsletter in 45 minutes or less every single week. And I want to make that a separate lesson. So I'll see you inside. Thanks. Welcome to the bonus section on creating killer newsletters really fast using a piece of software called TypeShare. So for those of you who have been following me online, you might recognize that I released my newsletter 12 weeks ago because I saw that I was generating a ton of attention in getting discovered on both Twitter and LinkedIn, but I wasn't doing a good enough job of really deepening trust with my audience through longer form content. So I decided to start a newsletter 12 weeks ago. I've grown it from scratch to over 12,000 subscribers. I've got about a 68% open rate, which is really, really huge in the industry. And this step has been critical in doing two things. It's driven a tremendous amount of monetization, but it's also been shared all over social media. So it's actually helping me get discovered more, which is step 1 in the creator funnel. When I started to write this, there was a big problem, and that was I'm pressed for time as a one-person show, and writing this newsletter was taking me over 2 hours, trying to compress all of my thoughts into a meaningful takeaway while staring at a blank piece of paper or a blank computer screen. So about 4 weeks into writing this, I got introduced to a piece of software called TypeShare. And TypeShare is built by two prolific internet writers, Dickie Bush and Nicholas Cole. And what they've essentially done is taken all of their learnings for long-form writing, stored them into TypeShare, and allowed users like me who want to create a high-value newsletter quickly, they've allowed me to do that using templates, just like the templates I'm showing you inside of the content operating system. It's super simple. You sign up with TypeShare, you go to create in the top right corner, and you're instantly presented with writing templates that you can explore. So when I click this button, I'm able to explore all these really interesting writing templates. We've got category point of view, mistakes and lessons, myths, 5 main points, and this really powerful ABCDE storytelling framework. My favorite that I use almost every single week in my newsletter is the how-to guide. And when I click into the how-to guide to use the template, it literally pops out a template that I can use to write this newsletter in less than 45 minutes. Sometimes I've been writing it in 30 minutes, like my last one. So you can see here, in this first sentence, tell the reader you're going to explain them how to do something. Next, explain to the reader why they should want to learn this, what benefits come with learning how to do it, what kind of outcome can they expect. Next, say, unfortunately, and then tell the reader why so many people don't. And it goes on to really prompt you to write this newsletter. And so I started using that all the time. You can see I told people exactly what I'm going to do. Then I say, unfortunately, then I use the heading, and then I fill out the bullets. This looks literally exactly like this template. So if you are creating to get discovered, there has never been a better time to move those folks to the next step of the funnel and start building that deep expertise and that deep trust. You don't have to wait until you reach 50,000 followers or 100,000 followers or you've produced 6 months worth of content. You can start building trust immediately, working to those 100 or 1,000 true fans and having those folks share your newsletter across the internet so that step 1, getting discovered, happens more frequently. Can't recommend it enough. I've actually partnered with both Dickie and Nicholas, those guys over at Ship 30 for 30, to give you a really cool deal on TypeShare. If you use the link below to sign up for it, you will not only get 30 days free of TypeShare, but if you become a customer, your first 3 months will be 50% off. It's already an affordable piece of software. This deal's super killer. So if you want to write a newsletter, if you want to deepen trust, if you want to bring people through the creator funnel, click below, try TypeShare, and I'll see you inside. Welcome to chapter 3 of the content operating system. And inside of this chapter, we're going to break apart the 4 different pieces, and we are then going to put everything together to build out a quality content system. And I'm going to show you how I actually do that. I've jumped off camera in this chapter because I don't want to cover up the screen, because we're going to need to see all the different parts of the screen in order to walk through the system. So as you can recall from previous chapters, there are 4 different pieces. We start by curating, next we templatize, then we create, and then we distribute. So step 1 is using curation tools. So as you can probably recall, there are 2 tools that we use. We use a Google plugin called Twemex, and we use another Google plugin called Save to Notion. Twemex is for finding top pieces of content, and Save to Notion is for bringing those pieces of content into our Notion Master Hub. So I pulled up 3 writers that I really like, Nicholas Cole, Amanda Natividad, and Dan Coe. And when I'm looking through Twemex, for the sake of this example or these examples, I'm not going to pull in Twitter thread templates. Just takes too long to write a full Twitter thread for this course. I'm going to pull in tweets, short content that we can use on both Twitter and LinkedIn. When I'm scrolling through Twemex, one of the things that I'm looking for are repeatable templates. So large blocks of texts, paragraphs, one-liners, those are more challenging. Listicles, things with bullets, those are generally easier. But again, you want to have a wide variety of different styles of templates. So as I scroll through Nicholas's, most of what I see are Twitter threads, because Twitter threads get a lot of engagement. They're also really hard to write. But as I scroll down and scroll down and scroll down, I see his first non-Twitter thread is actually his engagement photo. So we're not going to templatize that. But I did come across this one called The Biggest Mistake I Made as a Beginner Writer. You can see that's a good hook. He then announces his mistakes, adds a little context, and then says, instead, do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with a few takeaway sort of lines at the end. So let's take this one. We're going to pop this open. We are going to save this to Notion. I am going to turn this into a tip, and we're going to add that. Beautiful. Let's pop over to Amanda. All right. So Amanda also writes a lot of threads. So thread, 7 questions, 21 must follow accounts. Let's see. Like I saw this one earlier, there are 2 types of people, 1 and 2. This is a really good one. I'm not going to templatize this one today, but there's another one I saw earlier. Yeah, I love this one. I've started doing a weekly review and tracking it in Notion. I'm asking myself these 5 questions, and then she poses a question to the readers. This is really good for engagement because she asks a question. So let's bring this in. Let's call this one engagement and add this. And then we'll pop over to Dan Coe. This first one is, I don't want to say that, we've used like old way, new way before, so this is too much of a repeat. But if I scroll down, Dan's really creative. He's really good at writing things. These 2 are really great. Study this, study this, study this, study this. You'll become powerful. That one's really great. Here's a really simple one. If you're in your 20s, stop screwing around. Do these 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your 20s are meant to build, not decay. Cool post. Pop that open. And this is a tip. All right. Pop that in. Awesome. Cool. So now we very quickly, in less than 4 minutes, saved 3 tweets. You can go and just rip through this, right? We've saved 1 tweet a minute here. So in 30 minutes, you could save 30 templates. And we pop over to our to templatize section. So now we've got 2 tips and an engagement. We've got the tweets here. We've got the URLs here. And in the next step, what I want to do is I want to bring these into Notion. I want to turn them into templates. So I will see you inside of the next part of the chapter. Okay, welcome to step 2 in chapter 3. And this is where we're going to take the 3 tweets that we got, the one from Nicholas, the one from Amanda, and the one from Dan. We have now sucked them into Notion using Save to Notion. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to turn those into templates that we can use and reuse over and over again. So if we jump into my Notion operating system here, I have turned Nicholas's template into something I called the biggest mistake. And I've turned Dan Coe's template into something I call do these 5 things. Those are in the tips section. And then I've added Amanda's to the engagement section, and I've just called hers the weekly review. So I'm going to attempt to literally write these, rewrite these, and templatize these in real time. I have not pre-thought these or pre-written these. I've thought about them a little bit, but I have not pre-written these. And so I'm going to try and do this as best as possible so that you can see what it looks like to actually write a template. So let's start with the biggest mistake. So the biggest mistake is a great lead-in because it hooks people. They want to know the biggest mistake. So the biggest mistake I made as, this, right? You can capture whatever it is, colon. And then what you want to do is you want to actually just tell people the mistake, right? And then this one is like a little context, like Google Docs are a bad place to start writing. So like add context, right? All right, cool. Instead, do or action, like write, read, try, whatever that is, right? And then we'll just call this action 1. I like to surround these things with just these little bars because that's what I'm used to. It's just a habit. You don't have to do that at all. And to make this easy, we'll just do this. Cool. Action 2, action 3, action 4. And there's one more. Action 5. And then it looks like he drives it home. So we're going to drive home points. One more contextual line. So one more contextual line and the winning outcome. All right. Awesome. The biggest mistake I made is this mistake. Add a little bit of context. Instead, try, do, read, write, whatever the action is, these 5 things. Drive home those points, one more piece of context, and you get the winning outcome. That one was pretty easy. Let's pop to do these 5 things. If you are in your 20s is a thing. We could say if you are just this, whatever you are, right? Stop doing negative thing, right? Do these 5 things. And again, pretty simple. Thing 1. For the sake of this, I'll just call it thing, and we'll just repeat it 5 times just to save some time here. Okay, if you are this this thing, okay, this thing is meant to positive, build as a positive. Sorry about my typing. Not negative. Awesome. That one was also pretty simple. Rock and roll, we're moving fast. Cool. Okay, I've started doing I want to actually turn this into, a weekly review is too nebulous. I've started doing a topic weekly review and tracking it. I don't have to say in Notion. I'm asking myself, just again, we'll just do question. Sorry, my typing. I have a microphone in front of my keyboard, so I'm not typing super well. 5 questions. I'm actually going to change this. How do you review topic? I already have an idea for a tweet for this. Rock and roll. Okay. 4 minutes and 15 seconds to create 3 templates that we can use for the next 12 to 24 months. The biggest mistake is now a template. Do these 5 things is now a template. And the weekly review is now a template. Amazing. So in the next section, we are going to move from templatizing to using our creation tools. So I'm going to take the content matrix, and in real time, I'm going to attempt to write some really good tweets and LinkedIn posts that we can then publish using HypeFury. I'll see you inside step 3. Thanks. Okay, cool. We are coming into the home stretch. We're in step 3 of chapter 3 called using creation tools. And inside of this chapter, we're going to take the 3 templates that I built out, the one from Nicholas, the one from Amanda, and the one from Dan, and we are going to use my content matrix, just simply think of ideas to start plugging into these templates. And the goal will be that at the end of this step 3, that we have 3 really high quality pieces of content that I can go put into Hype Fury and send out to both Twitter and LinkedIn. So let's jump in. So the first thing that I did was I added the 2 templates from, I believe, Nicholas and Dan into the tip section. So I created the biggest mistake, which is what I called Nicholas's here. You remember we saved this one from him. And then I created the do these 5 things from Dan Coe when he's talking about being in your 20s. And then in my engagement section, I took the one from Amanda and I just called it the weekly review. And the reason that you see 2 of these here like this is because I have the original template up here, and then I simply just repost it down here so I can start filling in the blanks. And we are going to do that by using my content matrix to figure out what topics we're going to write about. So today I'm going to start with the biggest mistake. And I thought about these a little bit before recording this, but I haven't pre-written these. I'm going to just use some thoughts that I had by glancing at my content matrix in order to fill these out. So, all right, let's get started. The first one is the biggest mistake. And so we need to figure out a topic that we can talk about that I made a mistake as. And so there's a million different things I've made mistakes on, but my core topic is solopreneurship. I talk about that quite frequently on Twitter, so I thought that using solopreneurship or my journey as a solopreneur might be a really good example for a big mistake. So I'm going to type into this. I've got my keyboard behind my microphone, so if I screw up typing here, my apologies. So we'll start with the biggest mistake I made as, we'll do a solopreneur, right? Maybe like question mark, little hook there. All right. So one of the things we've talked about is like a really big mistake that people miss is they don't have a creator funnel. So like don't, or maybe not having having a creator funnel. Sorry for the typing here, guys. So, okay, cool. The biggest mistake I made as a solopreneur, good hook line. So hopefully if other solopreneurs see that, they'll be hooked in to say, hey, what's Justin's biggest mistake? I like to say not having a creator funnel. I'm actually going to capitalize this because I'm kind of like turning that into something that's like a topic of mine that I kind of own. So not having a creator funnel. I think that's a good contextual hook because some people might say, well, what is a creator funnel? And that leads to, the rest of the content, which I think people will read. So the next thing that I want to do is add some context. So I could say like when I started hold on. Back in 2019, that's when I started, I had no plan. Cool. All right. The biggest mistake I made as a solopreneur, not having a creator funnel. Back in 2019, I had no plan. I can say instead, but that wouldn't make sense. So like now I said action, but I'm going to actually just say now let's see. The top part is discovery. So now I get discovered on social media. Action number 2, let's see. All right, we'll talk about building trust. So build trust, how about with my newsletter? I have a feeling this is going to be a lot of characters, so I'm trying to save room by turning with into W. The next step is deepening relationships. So deepen relationships with community. And the last one is monetize. So monetize with, let's call them diverse products. Okay, cool. I don't actually have a 5th bullet point, so we can just take that away. No worries. Drive home points, one more contextual line, winning outcome. All right, some of these points are around, well, we'll just do this. Let's shorten this one up here because I think this is going to probably be pretty long. Let's say creator funnel equals predictability. Cool. The biggest mistake I made as a solopreneur, not having a creator funnel. Back in 2019, I had no plan. Now I get discovered on social media, build trust with my newsletter, deepen relationships with community, monetize with diverse products. Creator funnel, let's capitalize that, equals, how about more predictability? Cool. All right. I'm just trying to do these in real time. So like these aren't my best written posts of all time history for sure, but I can always tinker with these outside of the lesson to make them a little bit better. That one's good enough. All right. Do these 5 things. So let's figure out the next one. If you are doing something, stop. Okay. I thought about this one prior to, and my favorite one here is like digital products, right? I see a lot of people building courses when they shouldn't be. Like they're not ready to build a course. They're not ready to monetize. They don't have a big enough audience. So we'll say something like, if you are building an online course, stop negative thing. Actually, just like in this one, like just stop. I think you need to consider a few things before you actually build an online course. So rather than saying like, do these 5 things, we'll say you must have these 5 things. All right, so what are 5 things we got to have with an online course? You got to have a problem, right? A problem, but it has to be a problem your audience has says is painful. Okay, a problem your audience says is painful. Okay, you need an outcome for the student. You actually need a specific outcome, and you need it to have a specific outcome in mind for the student. Cool. All right, what's something else you need for a course? You need a short course, so like brevity. Actually, people won't know what brevity is. An outline to solve that in 45 minutes or less. How about that? Cool. I again think this is probably going to be over 280 characters if I keep going. So like, let's take these 2 things out. And do these 5 things becomes do these 3 things. And that's totally fine. Like you don't have to have all 5 things just to use this template. We'll call it, you must have these 3 things. Okay, cool. Thing is meant to be positive, not negative. I don't necessarily know that that works with this one. So maybe we just make this a little bit easier and we say pain. And then we have plus short course equals happy students. Actually, I don't like that much. You know what it is? We're alleviating pain. So alleviated pain and a short course sounds weird. How about high completion rates equals happy students. All right, let's read this back from the top. If you're building an online course, stop. You must have these 3 things. A problem your audience says is painful, a specific outcome in mind for the student, and an outline to solve that in 45 minutes or less. Alleviated pain plus high completion rates equals happy students. That's sweet. I love that one. That's a good one. Cool. All right, weekly review. Cool. So this one, again, I had a pretty decent idea even when I first saw this template. So I'm going to just share something that I actually do. So this one is about time, right? Because I think one of the things that I love doing is reviewing how I spend my time. If you've read my content, you know that I'm big into that. So I've started doing a time weekly review and tracking it. That wouldn't make sense. I've started doing not weekly review, it's a weekly audit of what? Of my time. Started doing a weekly audit of my time. Not I'm asking myself. I ask myself. All right, here's some questions I actually ask myself. So, what gave me energy, right? That's a common question I ask myself at the end of every week. I say, what took my energy away? Those things are important to me. Third thing I generally ask myself is, what can I easily eliminate? If you're wondering why I'm writing this particular one so easily, it's because I have this on my calendar. So it makes it really easy for me to remember these things. Let's see. what can I easily eliminate? And then what tasks need to be automated? And lastly, I ask myself, is there anything I can outsource? Cool. All right, how do you review X? Let's see, let's call that your, not time, but your time spent. All right, cool. Let's try this again. I've started doing a weekly audit of my time. I ask myself, what gave me energy? What took my energy away? What can I easily eliminate? What tasks need to be automated? And is there anything I can outsource? How do you review your time spent? Cool. I love that one as well. Awesome. Well, that took about 11 minutes. Normally, if I'm doing this without the pressure of trying to do it live on camera, I can probably do these each in about 90 seconds. But even if it takes you 3 minutes per piece of content, that is so much faster than probably most people write content. And so if you take 3, even 4 minutes per content, you can write 15 pieces in an hour. If you got 3 minutes, you're 20 pieces in an hour, and that is almost an entire month's worth of content. So you can see why this works, right? So let's review our pieces. The biggest mistake I made as a solopreneur, not having a creator funnel. Back in 2019, I had no plan. Now I get discovered on social media, build trust with my newsletter, deepen relationships with community, monetize with diverse products. Creator funnel equals more predictability. Awesome. Do these 5 things, which is now 3 things. If you're building an online course, stop. You must have these 3 things. A problem your audience says is painful, a specific outcome in mind for the student, an outline to solve that in 45 minutes or less, alleviated pain plus high completion rates equals happy students. And the last one is I've started doing a weekly audit of my time. I ask myself what gave me energy, what took my energy away, what can I easily eliminate, what tasks need to be automated, is there anything I can outsource? How do you review your time spent? Awesome. Well, like I said, we're in the home stretch, and the last part of chapter 3 is going to be publish automatically. So join me in the next step, and I'm going to put these into Hype Fury. We're going to set up some growth tools, and away we go. Thanks a lot, guys. Okay, welcome to the last step of the content operating system, which is publishing automatically. And we're going to use Hype Fury to publish the 3 pieces of content that we wrote to both Twitter and LinkedIn, and we're going to use some built-in boosting growth tools to make sure that they really take off. So as you can probably recall, we wrote the biggest mistake, do these 5 things, which actually turned into do these 3 things, and the weekly review. So I opened up Hype Fury, and the next spot that I had available, you can see I have 35 pieces of content written in there, was Wednesday, April 6th. So I have 2 slots on Wednesday, and I have a slot on Thursday. This one is not yet written. If you can recall, in my content calendar, each morning I share a tip, and then the subsequent or follow-up post, like at 11, I might share an observation or an engagement. So I took the 2 tips, which are the biggest mistake and the do these 5 or 3 things, and I loaded those into Wednesday morning and Thursday morning. So that's where the tips go. And then the weekly review, which is an engagement post where I'm actually asking my audience questions, I put that at 11:02 a.m. on Wednesday the 6th. But I also did some really cool things inside of Hype Fury to help these things grow and to also change them a little bit on LinkedIn. So I'll show you. So I've elected to automatically retweet this if it meets a certain milestone. I've elected to add an auto plug, which will plug my newsletter if it reaches a certain milestone. And I'm also sending these through to LinkedIn. You can see that this tweet from Nicholas Cole's template is 277 characters. But because LinkedIn has a 1,300 character limit, we can make it a little bit longer, a little bit more robust. So if you go into the advanced setting here, you'll see my post on LinkedIn is a little bit different. I actually changed the format. So instead of saying now I, colon, I actually just included it down here and made these a little bit longer. So instead of saying diverse products, I said diverse products and services. Instead of saying I get discovered on social, I changed it to be really platform relevant and said I get discovered on LinkedIn. And then instead of saying creator funnel equals more predictability, it now says creator funnel equals more predictable business results on LinkedIn. So this is really platform relevant. So the cool thing with Hype Fury is the post will go out to LinkedIn with all this relevancy, and it'll go out to Twitter in the original way that we wrote it. So it's kind of like 2 different pieces of content, which is really nice. Then I'm going to wait until it hits 100 likes, and if it does that, it will automatically get retweeted 9 hours later. If it hits 500 likes, I shortened this, or I lowered this bar a little bit, it's going to append this additional tweet, which is plugging my newsletter, and then as a, just a recap, it'll send this different post to LinkedIn, which is super cool. Awesome. Let's go check out the weekly audit of my time. So something pretty similar here. I have it being retweeted at 9 hours with 100 likes. I'm going to say if this reaches 80 retweets, so something a little bit different, will automatically plug my newsletter. And then on LinkedIn, I added just a few lines. I added drop your best tip below. So this is a little bit more engaging. How do you review your time spent? Drop your best tip below. So folks on LinkedIn will know to add their best tip in the comments. So again, just slightly edited from the version we're going to put on Twitter. And then for the next morning at Thursday, I actually changed this to an Ask Me Anything on LinkedIn. So you can see if you're building an online course, stop, you get 3 things and then a takeaway. On LinkedIn, it's a little bit different. I'm actually saying the same thing and then saying, need some help? Ask me anything for 60 minutes. Drop your questions below, just to further that engagement on LinkedIn. 345 characters wouldn't have fit on Twitter, very easily fits on LinkedIn. We're going to auto plug again at 500 likes, and we're going to retweet at 100 likes. So this is why Hype Fury, in my opinion, is the most powerful publishing tool on the market. It allows me to tweet. It allows me to write threads. It allows me to edit and send different things to LinkedIn, even though they're pretty much the same. I can add additional lines, additional questions, additional context. I can retweet things. I can auto plug my newsletter. I can sell my products if I want to. I just think this tool is so powerful and it keeps me really, really focused. So if you're buying this course during the pre-sale, you know this course comes out on April 5th, which means that April 6th and 7th, all of the content that I created inside of the course will actually go live. So if you've purchased this during the pre-sale, I really hope that you've gotten to this section. You'll see the content come out tomorrow and the next day, and you'll go ahead and give it some likes. So thanks so much for being a part of the content operating system, and I will see you inside of the next chapter, chapter 4, where we're going to walk through all of the bonus materials, including getting a copy of my operating system that you can reproduce for free inside of your Notion. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in chapter 4. As promised earlier in the course, I wanted to include a completely free copy of my content operating system as I build it out in Notion. So if you go below in the module here, you'll see a big link to, I think it says duplicate Justin's Notion or copy Justin's Notion for free. And inside of that, you will find 5 different things. You'll find my posting calendar, so you can come in here, and once this document is not editable in this screen right this second, but once you get it, you should be able to add what kind of content you want in each of these sections. Educate me, entertain me, challenge me, empathize with me. So you can plan out your own posting calendar. You can jump in and you can create your own content matrix, so you can create, as many different topics as you want to talk about. I just pre-included 9 so you can easily bang them out here, but you can create 50 if you'd like. Inside, here's the 2 templatize. So once you download the Save to Notion or the Notion Saver Google Chrome plugin, you're going to want to set it up so that it takes all of the things you save and brings them into the To Templatize section. And you can set that up with the appropriate category. Educate me, entertain me, challenge me, empathize with me. I've also included a section where you can drag your finished templates: educate, entertain, challenge, empathize. And because you have purchased my course, I wanted to also include 2 free templates that you can use right away. So if you go inside the Educate Me template here, you'll find this really cool, simple template that you can use on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I also included one in the Challenge Me section where you can use this very simple, very powerful, challenging template as well. And so this is a really easy way to get started. I've also included one last thing, a section for newsletter ideas. So if you want to add ideas you have for your newsletter or type them out here, this is a great place to get started. Notion is super powerful. You can build so much more on top of what I'm sharing here. This is super simple to do. You just come up here and hit the duplicate button. You log into your own Notion and it will copy it automatically. If you can't figure it out, below on step 4, I've pasted a link to a really simple article that will walk you through step by step. So thanks so much for being a student. Enjoy the free copy of my Notion operating system and get creating. Thanks. What's going on, everyone? I wanted to continue to add to this course. So my goal for the Content OS is to have this be a course that is continuing to grow and really just be adding additional value on a regular basis. So, you've made one purchase and this will continue to grow and evolve over the course of time, and want to make sure that this stays really relevant and that you learn something new as I'm learning new things. So today I wanted to share my posting calendar, answer a few questions that I've gotten from people, and then move into how to write really good and fast Twitter threads. I thought that would be really helpful for some folks. So you can see here that I have Twitter threads really in what I call Twitter AM2. I post 3 times a day on Twitter sometimes. So usually a tip in the morning, something different in the like early afternoon, 11, 12, and then usually something at like 2 or 3. You can see after my thread, I have none because I like to let the thread kind of ride and grow, and I don't want to, juice it down with another new post. A few folks asked me inside of the Content OS, like, you have educate, entertain, challenge, and empathize, but I also see some different things on your posting calendar. So for instance, here's pencil drawing, here's book quote, here's video, here's an AMA. These are just different styles that I'm always testing. The goal is always to entertain, educate, challenge, or empathize, but I'm trying to test different styles always to see what resonates. So like taking a screenshot of my Kindle and adding some lines of context has worked out really well for me. So like I'm trying that a couple different times on different platforms. So when you see screenshots, like just know that it's always a work in progress. I'm always experimenting, always trying new things. I think we all should be. That's the easiest way to figure out what works. Okay, enough of that. Let's move into Twitter threads. So about 3 weeks ago, I wrote this, how to build your first side hustle this March for just $19. Here's how. And I sort of wrote it out in 14 steps, and it seemed to really resonate on LinkedIn. So about 2,900 engagements, 480 comments, 34 shares, and almost 400,000 impressions. So a pretty nice post. And so I thought to myself, this is really ripe for a Twitter thread. And if you write long form content of any kind, whether that's on LinkedIn or Medium or your blog or newsletter, anything that's step by step is really ripe for a Twitter thread. So what I wanted to show you is how I might use some of my templates and also a process that I use to organize Twitter threads that I think will be really helpful. So, all right, to start, I jumped into my Twitter thread templates. And as you can see here, I've got a bunch of different threads, templates, maybe 12 or 14 here. And so I saw X dead simple steps to doing Y. And since this is 14 steps to building a side hustle that are really simple, I thought that one would apply really well. So I opened it up, and this is a 2-parter. So the first line of the thread is number of dead simple steps to do thing, even if you've tried everything. And then the second tweet in the thread is, by the end of this thread, you will have all these different outcomes. So when I'm writing, it's really hard for me to like write step 1 and then add a bunch of context and then write step 2 and add a bunch of context. For me, I use Hype Fury's full screen version to write Twitter threads in a really simple way. So I'll show you what I mean. When you go to write something, there's this full screen version here, and I like to enter that. And when I do, I'm going to move myself here. When I do, over on the right-hand side, I'll get a preview of what the thread might look like. And with Hype Fury, all you do is you hit the return key 3 times to do a new post. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's start with our first line here, right? All right. Number of dead simple steps to doing thing, even if you've tried everything. This is 14 steps to building a side hustle for just 19 bucks. So we'll do this. 14 dead simple steps to your first side hustle. Whoops. Sorry, guys. That's what happens when the mic is in front of your camera. Even if you've tried everything. I don't love that line for this one. So let's actually fix that and say for just $19. Oops, that's my name. For just $19. And then a little thread emoji, right? All right. We've got our opener. I can just return 3 times. And when I hit return 3 times, Hype Fury does this really cool thing. It automatically creates this last tweet, which says, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this thread, follow me and retweet the tweet below. And it uses this like weird technology. I'm not super sure how they do it, where they also embed the first tweet so that people can very easily retweet the first tweet, which is what you want in a Twitter thread. The next thing that I might do is go back to my LinkedIn post and just start copying and pasting and simplifying. So number 1 is clean up your social profiles. So we'll just call it clean up your profiles. 1, 2, 3, number 2, right? And I might come back to this post and say, create content daily about the challenge that you solve. So let's say create content daily. I like create daily content that talks about one challenge. That's good. 1, 2, 3. And you see on the right-hand side, it's literally building out this thread for me. What I like to do is do the headers. What I call these 1s, 2s, and 3s are headers. And then the body of the tweet just helps describe the header. The header tells the person what they're going to get in each individual tweet. And then the body adds a little more context. So I've actually already done it over here. So if you open this up and turn it full screen, you can now see 14 dead simple steps to your first side hustle for just $19 thread. I actually used this second piece right here. By the end of this thread, you will have these outcomes. So I filled it in right here as the second tweet. And then I created all 14 headers. And then it wraps up with this really cool, if you enjoyed this, follow me, retweet the tweet below. And so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath each of these numbers and just add some context. Because the real truth of the matter is 99% of the success of your Twitter thread comes from really your hook. So this very first tweet, and I've proven this because I've written the same thread twice using different hooks and gotten a 14x difference by having a better hook. So the hook is, I hope, compelling. I hope this sort of second tweet will get people really excited to read it. And that is the 90%, I'd say, of the success of Twitter threads. And then really it's just adding good information. You can't have a good hook and then really crappy information. So I think that these are 14 steps. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go add some context to each one of these things. And then I'm going to schedule this for tomorrow, Tuesday, March 29th at 11:44 a.m. So you will see the final result, but I wanted to show you sort of how I organize the tweet threads so that in my brain that works, and hopefully in your brain that will too. Use a template to get started with the hook tweet, and then use the triple enter button to start separating the different lessons. Write all the lesson headers first, and then go back and add the context, and you've got a beautiful tweet thread. Okay, hope that was helpful, and I'll be continuing to add to this course over time. Thanks for watching.